Welcome back to Network Partners Take Charge to Make Change webinar series. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Besties, Frenemies, and Wildcards. Meet your dream coalition. I'm Kathleen Murphy with Best Friends Animal Society. I'm a legislative policy analyst in our advocacy department, and I'm looking forward to discussing this today with Kelsey and Lynn. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we'll jump right in. Kelsey, why don't you start?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back with this. So it's nice to see everybody again. And I'm a legislative attorney with Best Friends Animal Society.
Lynn?
And my name is Lynn Greco, and I am the president of Animal Voice Alliance of South Carolina, AVA of SC, if you will.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your organization as we get started?
I would love to. Thank you. Animal Voice Alliance, or AVA, is a grassroots advocacy group dedicated to giving a voice to companion animals through efforts to engage and educate the public regarding the welfare and treatment of domestic pets. Highlighted by educational programs and public and media relations, AVA actively works to initiate and strengthen animal welfare legislation, particularly for animals that are neglected, abused, and are exploited for profit, thereby giving a voice to the voiceless.
That's great. Thank you. Y'all have done a lot of great work. You've worked with us. That's why we've asked you to be on our coalition call, and I appreciate you sharing more about your organization with us. So let's just jump in. Tonight, we really want to talk about how coalitions can make or break your policy or advocacy initiative if they're not set up to be advocates. So we want to talk a little bit about best practices for managing or being a member of a coalition and how to find some of those best coalition members. Because, you know, one thing that Best Friends is really lucky to have is a lot of expertise in policy areas in different regions. But even though we stand out, we don't always need to be the face or the leader in a coalition or on an issue. Oftentimes, third-party advocates can help decision makers and other advocates see benefits beyond just the ones that we bring to the table. So let's get started in talking about really what is the basic overview of a coalition and how is that helpful? Who should I toss that to? Kelsey, do you want to start, and then maybe Lynn tell us more about your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. So in my experience, and I've worked with several different coalitions over the years, Lynn and I worked closely together on incredible animal welfare and shelter policy changes in Horry County, South Carolina, which is the Myrtle Beach area. So Best Friends, as many of y'all as network partners may have seen by now, Horry County has been held out the past couple of years as having remarkable changes in life-saving from the shelter, and that's largely due to the work that Lynn and her coalition of folks have done. So what a coalition does is, in my experience, brings the opinions and thoughts of the public to the policymakers and to the folks in charge of shelter and animal sheltering, animal law enforcement, all of the things that are associated with really what we expect our government to be doing for animal welfare and care and control in a community. Oftentimes, because we're dealing with, this is Charlie, by the way, she was very needy to be held tonight, so she's here joining us. But because a lot of times we're dealing with government agencies, they've got limited capacity to really show up at a commission or a council meeting and talk about what changes should be made to improve welfare. That's where a coalition comes in, and where a coalition can really bring the public voice and the animal care and control voice together to a common resolution and a common goal and bring that to decision makers. Lynn, I don't know if you have additional thoughts that you might want to share based on your experience with us.
Well, I can say that, you know, social media has just been a wonderful, wonderful thing as far as, you know, getting animal advocates on board. I can't tell you how many people, I mean, I haven't even met them face to face, but, you know, we're friends on Facebook, and, you know, they know all about the things that we're doing in Animal Voice Alliance, and social media. It's a great thing. Yep.
Yeah. So one thing that Lynn kind of points out is that AVA is a coalition of grassroots supporters in Horry County and throughout South Carolina. So they started in Horry County and they're building across South Carolina, really to a lot of other locations with a similar process and a similar model. But a coalition can be bigger than that, right? It can also be different actual organizations coming together to achieve a common goal. We see that much more often at maybe the state level when we're talking about that. For example, Best Friends runs a housing policy coalition meeting that includes a variety of national animal welfare organizations. So a coalition can be anything from a grassroots grouping that's been highly effective, as Lynn has shown us, as well as nationally, just a variety of animal organizations designed for a common goal.
And I think that kind of echoes some thoughts that we've presented in the first part of this webinar series, is that sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? So if your coalition was successful as it has been, spreading that out and working in other localities probably cuts down on that timeline to success. Lynn, would you say that that's been your experience, is because you kind of have some sort of structure in place already in your coalition, you're able to get the grassroots effort moving quicker?
Well, absolutely. And as I had mentioned before, I've been approached by the city where I live in to update their animal welfare laws since they were last updated in 1978. So, the experience that I've received in going through the whole process as far as Horry County goes and with Kelsey has, really helped me big time in dealing with this now. And we've just started the process here. So I don't expect anything to happen until probably the end of the year.
1978. I do think a few things, not just in the world has changed, but in animals' lives too.
For sure.
So what type of membership do you need in your coalition? Kelsey, you mentioned organizations. Lynn, you've talked about having a lot of individual friends on Facebook. Lynn, do y'all have member organizations, like other organizations that partner as your coalition the way Best Friends has done?
Well, we did initially. I belonged to a group before I belonged to Animal Voice Alliance, so that was probably 7-8 years ago, and we were going in front of the county council at the time, and we had some radical people in our group, and they kind of rubbed the council members the wrong way, and it was a mess. So we let things calm down. In the meantime, I kind of scooted away from that group and came upon AVA, liked the people in that group. It was a smaller group, but liked their passion, liked their sense of going about it in a different way, going in front of council in a different way. You get more with sugar than you do with salt, whatever, however that saying goes. But we really hit it off with this group, and we kind of got the attention of county council at that point. They realized that we weren't a bunch of fanatics, that we knew what we were talking about, and things went off from there.
Wonderful. That sounds like it was a recipe for success.
Yes.
So, speaking of recipes, as we're salt and sugar and things like that, is there a perfect balance of having organizations, individuals? What kind of ratio do you look for when you say that's going to be a successful coalition? What is in that mixing pot that you're looking for typically? Or how do you know if you're missing an ingredient in your coalition?
Well, I try to get as many people as I can. When we went in front of council, we all had T-shirts that we wore with AVA all over them. They were bright red, and we filled half of the courtroom with bright red T-shirts. So they knew that we meant business. We were passionate people. So yeah, I mean, the more the better. The more people you have for your cause, certainly the better.
And
Okay.
I like to see a nice representation of the community, and that can depend on how large the community is, right? So if it's a county, having different unincorporated parts of the county represented. If it's a city, making sure that coalitions actually are stakeholders maybe in that city, whether they're living in the city. Ideally, if they're grassroots, they're voting in the city, right? We want constituents there. But a variety is always nice to see, so that it's a different message maybe, or a different the message looks a little different, but it's the same message that's coming through. But every community is different. And I think that's a beautiful thing about coalitions. It's just not one size fits all. And that's the most wonderful thing, to work with them. And I think also the great thing that Lynn did in building her coalition of folks is making it a one-stop shop for an organization and for a person like me to come in and disseminate education and information on how to present the message in a way that it can be heard. Because we all know that we are much more passionate about the work that we're doing and the beliefs and the thoughts and opinions that we have than maybe we can convey in a formal setting like a council meeting. So helping people understand the best way for their message to be heard. Lynn's organization and the way that she disseminated information to them made that so easy to do.
I can add to that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I can add to that at the very end, when we spoke in front of county council, I got my boss. My boss is a medical doctor, and he's passionate about dogs. He's got 7 of his own, all rescues. And I got him to talk, and it was just a different, a different point of view with him talking. And, just to watch the county council members, watch him speaking and listening to him, it was a good thing. And I feel that he really hit it home for us.
Lynn, that's kind of what I was about to say, was the saying in politics that politics make strange bedfellows at times. And while maybe a physician or a healthcare provider isn't so out of left field for something like animal advocacy, but you've got to be creative and don't turn someone down just because maybe you and another organization or another person didn't agree on one part of the code when it comes to animals, but you definitely agree on a different part. And I think keeping that open mind is so vital and so important, because really, I think both of you have really stated it, that affecting local change requires those local stakeholders and those local faces. We can always help boost it with other organizations and supporters maybe from surrounding areas, but you've got to reflect that community, and that's where wearing those red shirts, you definitely probably did stand out. And that's very effective, because it says that your coalition, while made up of different parts, you're all united in more than just a color of t-shirt, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Kelsey, what else do you think we need to have our network partners know about coalitions as we start to wrap up?
I think for, when I came into Horry County as an admitted outsider, Lynn and her group were already doing work and had been doing work for years and had been trying to do work for years. And sometimes, admittedly, we're at odds with some of the administration and the leadership in the county. So for the shelters and rescues that are watching this, if there are coalitions in your community, they can be your friends and your allies, or they can be thorns in your side, but they're going to be there because the people care about the animals. So if you're not working with them, you should be. You should be working to find common ground. It may not be everything, right? It may be, you may have differences of opinion on certain aspects of how animals are treated, how animals are processed through the shelter, a variety of different issues. But you need to work together with that coalition to find the common ground that you can and move forward with that mission, because the coalition's not going anywhere. And the coalition's voting, and they're going to keep showing up. And they can be brilliant, wonderful allies. in the community. So I think that would be the message that I would leave shelters with who are watching this, that if you're aware of folks working in the community, meet with them, find common ground, and turn them into allies on the issues that you can agree on. If you don't have a coalition, work to make one. Lynn, how did you find Animal Voice Alliance?
Oh, wow. Well, I happened to be at a county council meeting with that crazy group that I belonged to at the beginning. And I came out of the meeting and there was a lot of people that were just, mulling around talking. And I just sort of blended in with the groups, and that's how I found them.
Yeah.
And that's
so
how
they might already be coming to, oh, sorry, Kathleen, please.
Sometimes groups come together very serendipitously. Sometimes it will take a one passionate leader who sits down and calls around to other organizations to bring them together to join forces. And it could be a formal coalition or an informal coalition where you set up bylaws or structures or voting or dues paying. Coalitions can look like so many different things. They can look like a whole new organization made up of lots of parts, or really just be that kind of melding pot for everyone. So we just have about 2 minutes left. Any lasting thoughts, Lynn, that you want to leave with our network partners?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's strength in numbers. I just, like I said before, I go onto social media, people that are complaining about things or talking about issues. I tell them, join forces with us, come to our meetings and we can discuss all these things and we can make a change. So that's pretty much it. Just try to get as many people on board with you. Even like you said, even though we've had our scuffles with the people in our group, but we still stay together. We're still fighting for the cause.
Well, isn't that just true of families and Kelsey, as I keep seeing your dogs cycle through in your lap, right? Jealous of the lap, but at the end of the day, they're going to snuggle together and we're all family. We may fight like cats and dogs, but we're all family in the end on the issue, right? So, well, thank you, Lynn, for joining us. You are our first non-best friends or a guest, and so I really appreciate you saying yes to this. And so thank you, network partners, for continuing on to the second part of our series, and we will see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.